Breaking news, Jeff Sessions just unloaded huge on Hillary Clinton. What he just did could spell the end of her crime family and her decades-long crime spree. Joshua Kaplan for the Gateway Pundit reports that according to Fox News, the Justice Department head ordered senior federal prosecutors to evaluate whether or not a special counsel should investigate the Uranium One deal and alleged unlawful dealings related to the Clinton Foundation. Take a look.
In fact, Jeff Sessions did not recuse himself from Uranium One and these other deals, and he may now appoint a special prosecutor, something we have said has been needed a long time. Finally, hopefully.
Well, it's incredible news, Sean, because now what we know for certain is that for a while now, the Department of Justice has been looking into all of these allegations. And now what we know is that they've been looking into it all year long as well. And these are congressional criminal referrals, which means that the Department of Justice now takes that one step further and goes to the FBI and says, look, can you look into this? What information can we find out to build cases? Is there something here?
But here's the catch. Sessions is allowing Rod Rosenstein, who was involved with Uranium One, to help him with his recommendations. You heard me correctly. Now, Fox News reports that the Assistant Attorney General Stephen Boyd, he stated, quote, that these senior prosecutors will report directly to the Attorney General and the Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein as appropriate, and will make recommendations as to whether any matters not currently under investigation should be open, whether any matters currently under investigation require further resources, or whether any matters merit the appointment of a special counsel. Now, as the Gateway Pundit previously reported, the disgruntled Republican lawmakers now are beginning to voice the very same displeasure over the inaction of Attorney General Jeff Sessions, as many conservatives have for months. They say here that the calls for Sessions to investigate the corruption surrounding Hillary Clinton and James Comey are getting louder. Earlier this week, the GOP Congressman Jim Jordan and Matt Gaetz called on Sessions to probe the FBI's investigation into Hillary Clinton's private email use or resign. According to the Washington Times, they report that, quote, it's time for Jeff Sessions to name a special counsel and get answers for the American people. If not, he should step down. Now, that's what the congressman said in a piece for FoxNews.com. Now, as the Gateway Pundit's Jim Hoff reported, sources confirmed to Fox News' Sean Hannity that Attorney General Sessions has not recused himself from the Uranium One scandal. However, Rod Rosenstein, well, he needs to if we're going to get true justice.
I'm the only one that can unite Democrats and Republicans. Because I seem to be opposed by both. They've spent over $30 million trying to take me out.
Those comments from Roy Moore just moments ago after an eventful and chaotic day in the Alabama Senate race. The Republican National Committee has announced it is withdrawing support for Judge Moore's candidacy and pulling out of a joint fundraising agreement for the Alabama special Senate election. And this is all in response to multiple allegations now that Moore had made unwanted sexual advances toward teenagers back in the 70s. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell is even floating the idea of Attorney General Jeff Sessions returning to his old Senate seat.
The Alabamian who would, fit that standard would be the Attorney General, right, who's totally well known and extremely popular in Alabama. I've spoken with the president. He called me from Vietnam largely about this on Friday. I talked to General Kelly on Saturday and the Vice President yesterday. Obviously, we're in discussion here about how to salvage this seat if possible.
But it's not all bad news for Judge Moore. Alabama Republican Party Chairwoman Terry Lathan has not turned on Moore yet and told local media yesterday, quote, it would be a serious error for any current elected GOP official or candidate to publicly endorse another party's candidate, an independent or a third-party candidate or a write-in candidate in a general election as well, close quote. And a new poll from Fox 10 in Alabama shows Moore leads his Democratic opponent, Doug Jones, by 6 points. Joining us now for reaction in Birmingham is Alabama's Secretary of State John Merrill, in New York, conservative commentator Monica Crowley, and here with me in Washington is Catherine Mangu Ward, who's editor-in-chief of Reason magazine. Great to see all of you. Monica, let's start with you. This has been a wild few days on this Roy Moore situation. You got the establishment types turned on him pretty fast, but then you had Mike Lee in Utah, senator from Utah. You had Ted Cruz. And now my colleague Sean Hannity says basically you have 24 hours to clear up the discrepancies in your statements. How can Roy Moore possibly hang in under these circumstances?
I'm not sure he can, Laura. I mean, there's certain political realities at play here, and gravity does tend to kick in, especially when the money starts to disappear. The RNC pulled the funding as well as the field operation that they were going to implement to get out the vote for Roy Moore. With those two things missing, Laura, I don't see how he's able to survive. It doesn't sound tonight like he's willing to go anywhere yet. But when these realities start to kick in over the next 24 hours, when the money disappears, you know, you can't run a campaign on fumes or love. That, I think, is when the hard choices are going to come in front of Roy Moore, when he doesn't have the institutional support to continue this campaign.
Let's go to the Secretary of State, John Merrill. John, what happens if the election is held and those absentee ballots are left over if, in fact, Roy Moore steps aside, the party relinquishes any connection to Roy Moore? Do the absentee ballots still count in that case?
Well, Laura, they do, and I think it's very important for your viewers to note that our people have been voting since October the 18th. That's when the absentee ballots first went out for consideration and for our voters to be able to have their opinion known and have their voice heard. And that's not just the UOCAVA military overseas voters. That's a number of voters throughout the entire state of Alabama. I think it's important to note that if Judge Moore withdraws from the campaign, or if the state party disavows their association with Judge Moore and determines that they no longer support him, and both of those actions have to take place formally by them indicating to our office that they no longer wish to pursue the candidacy of Judge Roy Moore in the U.S. Senate, that even though Judge Moore's name will still be on the ballot, if he gets the most votes as a plurality winner on December the 12th, then our election will be null and void.
Catherine, now Mitch McConnell is saying perhaps they won't seat him, or that once he's in, if he gets elected, indeed gets elected, that they'll move to remove him. Now, if you're someone in the South and, you maybe haven't followed this much and maybe you think Roy Moore like dating 17-year-olds or 18-year-olds, it might come across to you as this is the old guard telling the Southerners they're a stupid bunch of yahoo hayseed types, and they might just be like, you know something? He's seated. This is just another example of the elites kicking people like us around.
I mean, I think this is Congress reaping the fact that they are wildly unpopular. Congress has like a 19% approval rating right now.
That high?
I know. It sounds almost
I don't think
good.
so.
And the idea that they don't have the trust of the American people, that they are not in a position to say, hey, this is an extraordinary circumstance. We want to take the high road here. We want to do an investigation. I would love to see them do an investigation through a trusted third party. They don't have to take the Washington Post word for it. They don't even have to believe the Oppo research if that's what they think is going on. But I do think they need to take it seriously, particularly if they want to say, listen, we're better than the Democratic Party, who's constantly apologizing for their guys when they get accused of this kind of thing.
Yeah, well, Monica, need we go back to the Menendez trial? And, we might have a deadlock situation there now, but there was a time where there were allegations, and Daily News and a lot of publications went with them, that, allegedly he took trips to the Dominican Republic and had, relationships, sexual in nature, with underage hookers. I don't recall a single Democrat calling for his resignation. Same thing with the old story about Barney Frank all those years ago, and many others. So, the Democrats seem to cover for their own, but I guess the Republicans, they want to come across looking a lot better than that.
Well, Democrats have always circled the wagons and protected their candidates and protected their presidents and protected their own for a really long time. And Republicans always went into the circular firing squad, Laura. But I think what makes these cases so different right now is that we are in a completely different cultural moment with all of these stories of sexual harassment coming out of Hollywood and the media elite, the modeling world, the music world, and so on, that given this moment, these folks cannot survive it. And even folks at the high end in the leadership of both parties and both establishments, et cetera, are now no longer saying that this is acceptable and are less willing, Laura, to cover for these folks. And you're seeing it now happening on both sides. And that's why I think in the Roy Moore situation, in many ways, he is going to be a casualty of this moment. And whereas perhaps he may have survived. Look, Donald Trump, in the tail end of the campaign with the Access Hollywood tape, he was able to sort of harness a boomerang effect where people felt that that was a pile-on and they came out and rallied around him. But Donald Trump was an exceptional figure, and I'm not so sure that Roy Moore is going to be able to do it. That's right.
Moore is not Donald Trump. Secretary of State, I just want to just close out with you. In your estimation right now, I know you're still kind of standing behind Roy Moore. Does he stay in this race, and does he get elected?
Well, I think it would be highly unusual for Judge Moore to step aside. That would be against every type of example that he has set. I don't see him getting out of the race. I think the party of, well, I'll tell you, it's going to be extremely, extremely close, Laura. And I hear mixed reviews all around the state of Alabama. This is a very disconcerting time for our state, and this is not the way we like to be featured in the national limelight, I assure you.
No, I can't imagine. Thanks for joining us, John.